Good morning. It's Sunday, March 10th, and today's topic is really disturbing because when you think about what's going on in the world, one factor in many cases is overlooked, and that factor is something that we will call large-scale famine. There are many in this world that are on the verge of starvation constant. And about 8 years ago, somebody who wrote on this topic believed that the world food situation had stabilized and there weren't going to be too many people in need of food. But that's not true. Now the famines have returned. And so when I was reading this article about the world in general, I decided to take a look at the United States, where we were once a great country. But in my opinion, we are not that once great country anymore. And so when I started to look at the statistics of how many people in the United States face starvation every day, it's a sad statistic. Because hunger in the U.S. reaches 49 million people approximately. That's one person for every 6 people in the United States. These are people who still rely on food assistance from charities like Feeding America. And here are the hunger facts. 13 million children in the United States are food insecure. 49 million people are food insecure. And in the last year or so, another thing, 100% of the U.S. counties have food insecurity in some segment of their population. So that statistic tells you that hunger is a major problem all over the United States. It's not only in places that we would consider the poor states, like maybe Alabama or Arkansas or parts of Texas or maybe Wyoming, places like that. No, hunger is prevalent all over this country. In every county in this country, there is a segment of society that is on the brink of starvation. Maybe not that close to starving, but needing a lot of help to get the food and nutrition that they need. And this is not a minor problem because the lack of good food, the lack of that particular item is critical to your physical health, and worse yet, it's critical to your mental health. If you do not get the proper food allotments, you will not develop your primary mental capacity to deal with life going forward. Imagine that. If you're on the verge of starvation, just staying alive is an effort, but it affects your capability to think and think rationally. And if your thinking is affected, what chance do you have to make a decent living later on in your life? Because even if you don't go to college, and you just graduate, but you become unable to develop a skill that would put you in a situation to make a decent living. And once again, you will be on the verge of starvation. So this is not an easy problem to solve, but it is a major problem that exists in the United States. When you consider 1 out of every 6 people are on the edge of starvation, that does not look good for us. But maybe that's good. Maybe that's good compared to 90% of the countries in the world. But it's not good enough for me. It's not good enough for this country. It's a shame. This problem goes along with the problem that we have in many areas where they refuse to pay people a decent living wage. And maybe that also contributes to the starvation situation. Because if you're only making $7.50 an hour, you can't eat that well. You might be limited to very cheap foods and things like that. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this country beyond a lot of the things that we look at on a day-to-day basis. And the virtual starvation of 1/6 of our population is not something that we can afford to avoid. It's not something that we can not talk about openly. There needs to be more news with respect to the food situation in this country. Not that we don't have great food and everything like that, but the distribution of food is not properly handled. And when you pay people $7.50 an hour, they can't go on shopping sprees, Well, this is a serious problem that we're dealing with. Just think about some of these things, because hunger can affect people from all walks of life. Millions of people in America are just one job loss, one missed paycheck, or one medical emergency away from hunger. But hunger doesn't affect everyone equally. Groups like children and seniors and people of color face hunger at much higher rates than the average person walking the streets. And you all know why those situations exist. So I won't get into that. In fact, if you wanted to do research on the matter of hunger in this country, I found a place where you could find the hunger facts about children, about rural people living in rural areas, about seniors, about African Americans, about Latinos, about Native Americans. The facts on hunger are separated even into the active military and veterans and Asian American hunger facts. So hunger is affecting all segments of our population. And we are not really paying attention because of the dispersion of all the hunger areas. It's almost impossible to come up with a formula that can satisfy all of these situations. But we need to get some experts together. We need to do some work. We really need to look into all of these different segments and come up with a universal solution, because there's no point in us continuing as our journey through life goes with 1/6 of the population still hungry and having been hungry for years. How many good people have not made it to the proper position in their life because of this situation, because of the fact that they didn't eat well as a child, or they gave up some of their food because their family members were not eating well. There are many, many factors that hunger affects in this country. So if you're hungry young, you're probably not going to do very well later on in life. And I let you think about the fact that we need to feed our people in order to continue to be somewhat great. I don't know what's going to get us back into the great category, but we need to work. And this is another issue that we need to pay attention to. So have a great day, and I'll see you in the morning. Bye.